While launching a new Asia-Pacific trade initiative in Tokyo, US President Joe Biden said he would be willing to use force to defend Taiwan if it were attacked. It is one of the strongest statements in support of the island in decades. China claims Taiwan as its territory, and while the US and other countries accept this one China policy, they say it can only be resolved through diplomacy. Speaking in Tokyo, Biden also warned that Beijing's increasingly assertive stance over the island was flirting with danger. And this is what Biden had to say when asked by reporters what the US would do in case of an attack by China.
Are you willing to get involved militarily to defend Taiwan if it comes to that?
Yes.
You are?
That's the commitment we made. That's the commitment we made. We are not, look, here's the situation. We agree with a one China policy. We've signed on to it and all the attendant agreements made from there. But the idea that it can be taken by force, just taken by force, is just not appropriate. It will dislocate the entire region and be another action similar to what happened in Ukraine.
And for more, I'm joined now by correspondent Sonia Blaschke in Tokyo. Sonia, many in Washington are worried that Beijing could invade Taiwan, and we heard that US President Joe Biden's clear words are that the US would come to Taiwan's support. How real is the threat of a Chinese invasion?
Well, I mean, considering what he said, obviously there are people who fear that it could be real. The US think that way, Japan. However, it's not a matter of something that would happen very soon. It's real in a sense that they are trying now to prevent this from happening by showing a strong deterrence, by really locking shoulders and saying, hey, we will not let this happen. And while Biden said he would defend Taiwan, later he said, he would stand, or before as well, he would stand by the one China policy and that they would only deliver weapons but not soldiers. But still, he's made these remarks repeatedly. So I think maybe this is not a coincidence. And they would really like to try and avoid a similar situation as we've seen happen now in Europe, obviously, with Russia and Ukraine.
Now, Japan, of course, is a key player in the region, but militarily, it's kept a low profile since World War II. And now it's planning to spend more on defense capabilities. Why now?
Yes, Japan has a pacifist constitution, and it's one that's cherished very much by a large part of the population. However, there have been conservative and nationalist politicians who for a long time have been wanting to change that. And kind of ironically now, the Russian attack on Ukraine has made that seem possible and quite likely. So it's been a real game changer in that sense. And China, for its part, has done lots of things that angered the Japanese. There have been lots of incursions by ships into Japanese waters. There have been lots of territorial issues, economic issues as well. But recently, mostly really these kind of ship issues, so to speak. And that, and also, of course, North Korea and its missile tests have been a source of worry for Japan. And these are the main reasons why Japan is now changing its stance towards the military.
Correspondent Sonia Blaschke there for us in Tokyo. Thank you.
President Biden aims to boost America's economic presence in the region to counter China's rising influence. In Japan, Biden has been presenting details of his Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, or IPEF. The U.S.'s closest allies, Japan and South Korea, are among the founding members. Now, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, Australia, and New Zealand are seen as potential members. The IPEF, however, is not a free trade agreement. It does not aim to lift duties and trade barriers, as many people in the United States are concerned about outsourcing American jobs. The goal, rather, is to make supply chains more resilient, for instance, to secure the urgently needed resupply of chips, semiconductors that are important for the auto industry. Infrastructure is another key element. There is a massive need for new roads, ports, and renewable energy projects in the Indo-Pacific region. The Biden administration does not want to lose out to China's Belt and Road Initiative there. Now, earlier, I asked Wenxin Liu, senior researcher at the Kiel Institute for the World Economy, to give us her take on the economic considerations of this trip.
Yeah, there are two main economic considerations behind this trip, and they are strongly linked to each other. The first one is to improve the reliability, resilience, and security of the supply chains, particularly in the interests of the United States, and to reduce the threat of autocratic countries to the supply stability of strategic goods such as semiconductors and batteries. So here the U.S. is intensifying its cooperation with partners in this region who share values with America and have advanced technology in the area. So the U.S. tries to push more from them to invest in America to have shorter, more reliable and safer supply chains. We can already see two such examples during Biden's visit in South Korea so far. So one is Samsung, with its $17 billion investment in building an advanced semiconductor plant in Texas. And another one is from Hyundai, with more than $10 billion in American manufacturing, particularly in electric vehicles, battery equipment, and robotics and AI. So all the areas that are really desired by the US. And the second economic consideration behind this trip is to launch and promote the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework this evening.
Wenxin, this Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, the IPEF deal, is to make supply chains more resilient. Is it likely to do that?
Yeah, actually, it's highly uncertain as to its impact at the end. This is also linked to the high uncertainty as to the membership, because as far as I know, although there might be 12 countries in the Indo-Pacific region which would join the launch event this evening, many countries in the region are still quite skeptical. On the one hand, it's because that they still have this kind of experience in mind, what happened in the past as to the TPP. So they are not so sure whether this time will work better with the IPEF. And on the other hand, it's also because that they don't really see the benefits to these countries, because this time the IPEF will not be linked to a greater access to the US market, and tariff cuts will not be included either. So they will ask themselves quite strongly what they can really get if they join the IPEF. But to counter this problem, the US government already indicates that there might be some flexibility as to the countries can choose and sign on only modules they are interested in. So this might keep the cost of IPEF membership lower than the case when the countries are required to accept all the modules, and thus making the IPEF membership probably acceptable for more countries. But still, we don't know at the end which countries will join. We don't know in which depth and to which extent, and if there will be at the end only a limited number of countries will join, the impact will be probably low.